Hello guys, this is Swiss. Welcome back to another video. Guess what? We are going to review another DAO proposal. And this is not just any DAO proposal, it's an important one, believe it or not. This one actually deals with the way that the DAO proposal is supposed to be submitted in the future. This is actually a proposal for proposals. And the person submitting the proposal is Matimio, a valuable member of the Decentraland community who is not only passionate about the metaverse, but also someone who has participated in many of the key discussions on how a DAO is supposed to be designed for Decentraland for it to actually work for the DAO to be legitimate and accepted by the community. So he's someone who understands what he's talking about. And if you actually read through this somewhat lengthy proposal, it will be evident that some of these ideas are key to the success of the Decentraland DAO. I will quickly run through some of the key points. This will not replace actually coming over here and have your own read at it. And let's just jump into it right away, guys. So basically, he is saying that he suggests to expand the process of a proposal from only one stage that we have today into three stages. Into stage one, which is the pre-proposal poll, stage two, which is a draft proposal, and a stage three, which is an actual binding governance proposal. Now let's just take a step back. Today, we only have that very stage one pre-proposal poll that we kind of treat as if it was a binding agreement between the community and the foundation or the committee. The thing is, some of the proposals, some of these polls, even though they are accepted, are very often, not very often, but sometimes not actually implemented. We've had one of these examples not too long ago where we were promised to get a technical review by the committee and actually never heard back from them, even though we had over 2.5 million votes for a proposal. So the current system, the oversimplified basic polling system that we have today for very important fundamental decisions is not really working. He is suggesting to replace the current system with a more advanced system consisting of these three steps. Now, this is not all. There are actually some little details that are really, really important in each of these stages that you should be informed about. And he's kind of describing all of these in some detail here. I'm going to try to touch on one or two which I think are key. First of all, he's saying the very first stage is somewhat informal. It doesn't need to be a fully fledged out document. It can just be a well-formulated short statement that describes the actual idea in some detail. But it, of course, can be a full document, but it's not required. And the people who are able to submit a proposal like that should have at least 100 voting points, meaning they have a custom name registered, which will automatically give them these 100 voting points, or they should have a little bit of mana in order to prove that they haven't registered an account just yesterday, that they have some skin in the game, some commitment. I think this is one of the steps he's proposing to reduce the number of, just badly put together, quick and dirty submissions. I think this is a very valuable suggestion. It's simple, but it sounds like it's effective, and I like that it's 100 VP because it really represents a name ownership as well. The second thing which is important here is the threshold for a proposal poll to pass from stage one to stage number two. It should reach at least 500,000 voting points. Now, that is not a whole lot. Sometimes just 2 or 3 mid-sized community members could make a pre-proposal poll pass to stage two. Now, what's really important here is that even if a pre-proposal has let's say a lot of people against it, as long as 500,000 voting points are for it, it will pass to stage number two. And this is actually quite cool because sometimes, and this happened to us many times before, sometimes you have a good idea, but certain details about your initial suggestion are not resonating with a big part of the community, and you should have a chance to reformulate that idea, to adjust it, because sometimes it's a detail that people pay more attention to. You should have that opportunity, but as long as 500,000 voting points are on your side, you get to move on to the second step within a voting period of 5 days. So this is actually quite a good idea, I think. I have probably missed a few details here, but I do want to leave you something to read when you actually land on this page. Let's move on to stage number two. In the stage number two, let's me quickly cheat here. It actually has to be in a specific format. If you want to take it to the next level, you need to use the format described in Annex 1, and you can review that annex by clicking the Discuss in the Forum button here. You will have a detailed overview of what he is proposing in terms of format. It's not complicated. It totally makes sense. Then for this draft proposal to pass to the final stage, to a binding governance proposal, which is the actual innovation of this proposal here. In order for it to pass, you need to reach at least 1 million voting points. That is not a whole lot. A few key players, key community members can reach 1 million voting points with a little bit of effort. But, and that's an important point, it also has to represent 51% of the total participating voting power. And that's key here. That means that draft proposal can easily be rejected if a lot of people are against it. But, and this is another but here, if it if this draft proposal fails to achieve that majority, the submitter has the opportunity to amend it and change it and resubmit it, but only once. And it feels like an overkill for some, but I think it's important to have that for the already mentioned reason, where sometimes only a detail crystallizes itself out in the process of discussion to be an area of concern for a lot of people. If you would have removed or changed that one detail, a lot of people would actually vote for an idea. So in order to have that flexibility without starting a brand new proposal, I think it's great to maybe have that opportunity to resubmit once. What I'm not clear about if that would extend this 1 week of voting period that you have available for this second stage, or if all of these processes have to happen within 1 week, but I imagine it would extend it by 1 more week. And this is an important point that I haven't mentioned in the beginning. He's saying, Matimio is saying that we are rushing important decisions and we are using a format that is not really suitable to solve complex questions and to get consensus across a large community. And all of that is on top of that squeezed into a very short period. By the way, guys, you're probably going to hear a lot of sports car passing here in Dubai. I'm in the 29th floor here, and I can hear every Lambo and every Ferrari passing. The mic is probably picking that up. Where was I? So basically, he's saying the tools that we have are working, but they're too simplistic, and we are rushing it, trying to squeeze everything into a 1 week process. It's important to extend this a little bit for the community to have time to spread the message, to mobilize people, to tweet about it, to create content around it, to figure out what the weaknesses of an idea are. This is the reason why I was asking, focusing a little bit on the periods that he's suggesting, because it actually extends it here from 5 days to potentially 2 extra weeks if you resubmit it once. In any case, let's move on to the final stage, which is the actual important stage, where at this point we have dealt with the material in the proposal heavily. We have spent almost 2 to 3 weeks dealing with it. And at this point, we are coming to a stage where if this is actually going to go through at stage three, this is serious. This can actually change the way Decentraland works. This could change some important components of the ecosystem. And this so let's spend a little bit more time on this binding governance proposal, stage three. The purpose of the governance proposal is to formalize the past version of a draft proposal into a binding governance outcome. Okay, we got that. Only established or recognized community members can submit governance proposals, which are only passed if they reach the needed acceptance criteria for the category. What this means is that from I think that's not super clearly formulated here, but I believe that you need to have at least 2,500 voting points in order to be able to submit a binding governance proposal in stage three. So not everyone can just do that. You need to have some skin in the game, and 2,500 voting points would mean that you would have two lands or a land and um, some mana, maybe a land or and five names, or just 2,500 mana. So you would have to have a little bit of skin in the game at this point in order to be able to use that tool here. So someone could actually submit a stage one pre-proposal poll with one name, but in order to take it all the way, someone more senior would have to support that process. Again, I don't say if I agree with this or not, but this is the proposal submitted by Matimio, and I think there are a couple of details that are very nuanced and thought through, but maybe also a little bit complex. We'll have to see. Let's move on. So he's also talking about acceptance criteria for a specific category. I'm going to skip on this because it just complicates the understanding of the core components and it doesn't actually mean anything at this point in time. This is another sentence that I'm going to skip. It's dealing with something that might be relevant in the future but is not relevant yet and is not covered by this proposal. Okay, here we go. Proposals must receive a simple majority of 51% of the participating voting power and at least 6 million voting points to pass as binding decision. So this is the key area here. After 2 or 3 weeks of discussion, eventually you will need to have 6 million voting points, which is quite a lot, but we currently have, for example, 8 million voting points to pass a large $250,000 US grant. We've seen that in a recent proposal. It now newly takes 8 million voting points to spend $250,000 on a project. So it is not impossible. We have seen DAO proposals that got together almost 10 million voting points. So it is possible. But remember, if you get to this stage, this is actually super important. Let's move on. And it has to get 51% of the total voting power participating in a DAO. So if you have a lot of opposition to an idea and you need 6 million voting points, it could be that you have, let's say, 4 million votes against your proposal, and then it would still pass if you have 6 million votes. But if there is like 7 million votes against you and you have 6 million votes for a proposal, then it would not pass. So just a little bit of math here to clarify this point. Processes and thresholds for established categories will not be changed as part of this proposal. And he is talking about, the grants, is talking about name bans and all that stuff that is currently considered to be binding in the DAO. We have those 4 categories already established. So he's basically saying that will not be affected at this point in time, and this proposal does not deal with those. All right, guys, I think this is pretty much what's what's really important about this proposal. I would encourage you to come over here, read it, and vote on it. My personal opinion at this point in time is I have that question of, Okay, so not all of the issues that are going to be brought up in the first stage are going to have a very high level of importance. I mean, we have things like, hey, let's make wearables free to create for everyone. Like, we have ideas like that, let's say, which would heavily impact the already complex economic situation that we have. Something like this will definitely benefit from a tool like that, where we can take a little bit of time and have a formal process and can have various stages where we can iterate an idea into something that might work for everyone. So we have this tool for complex questions, but what about simple questions or simpler questions, like uh, like we had a community member, Mike, who wanted to mint a new collection of items not on L2 but on L1 on Ethereum main layer, whereas everyone else now mints on L2. So he asked the community for the possibility to do so. And questions like this will probably not have to go through the process like that. This will take a month or 5 weeks and a lot of uh, engagement from the community. So we need to have some kind of way of deciding which issues will go down this route and which issues won't. And I would be really interested in hearing what Matimio thinks about that. There must be a fast track solution for simpler issues. And then the second issue is probably an easy one to say, but a difficult one to solve. From time to time, we speak about voting fatigue. It's like a situation where you have so many DAO proposals that are complex and heavy to read, maybe important, but people just don't have the energy and the attention span to vote again and again and again on issues, especially if the issues are related, or especially if there is a duplication of an issue, or in this particular scenario, if you actually have to go through a process of 5 weeks of discussion. Let's say you do not come to an agreement and you relaunch with something different on a similar topic, would people not start to uh, get tired of these processes? So these are the two questions to Matimio that I have: this voting fatigue, and also how do you deal with less complex issues? And I think he touched on this with a potential of having different kind of subcategories of proposals. So if we can resolve those two questions, I would definitely be interested in this proposal. And now a third thing, Matimio, which kind of worries me here. In my situation, where I generally am fascinated by the way you put this together and how you thought this through, I have three issues or two issues that I raised here. I would normally pick option number two based on the choice that I have. Modify current use of community polls, however, amend this proposal. Now, the thing is, I want to, I have two questions, and maybe there are good answers for those two questions. Generally, however, I would like to see this go through. I think we need a tool like that. So I'm kind of hesitating. Should I use this literally, or should I actually still use the option number one? Because generally I agree with it. Because people who might, like something in that idea, but have a lot of criticism, they might also choose option two. And I do not belong into that in that group. So I find this option two here a little bit misleading, I guess. There should be some kind of, this probably should have two, it should be split in two different options. Would like to have a minor adjustment and would like to have a major adjustment. Maybe something like this. I don't know, just thinking out loud. All right, guys, I'm not going to take too much more of your time. I hope this was interesting. Make sure to head over here. Make sure to go to the forum, discuss it in the forum. Make sure to retweet it. Make sure to vote here the way you feel about this. I'm going to cast my vote just after this recording. And I'm curious to see, guys, what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I do occasional DAO reviews, but I also do a lot of other content trying to keep this interesting. mostly related to Decentraland for now. Hit the like button to support the distribution of this video, guys. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.